Oftentimes throughout history, a piece of media will be released to much success and have a deep impact on the pop culture of the time and, in turn, influence other projects produced by studios that are hoping to have the same success. A perfect example of this would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, leading to other anthropomorphic animal shows such as Biker Mice from Mars and Street Sharks. While I adore all three of these shows, the topic I wanted to talk about today is when studios took their beloved characters and presented them in a much more compact form, a time when TV got small. Beginning in the 80s and stretching over the span of a decade, the world would start to see characters that they knew and loved begin to change. A trend among studios would lead to pre-established series having their characters taken and presented in a younger form. This led to the Muppet Babies, the Flintstone Kids, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, Tiny Toons, and Tom and Jerry Kids. If life imitates art, then cartoons imitate whatever is successful at the time. With each show following the same premise, it's hard to imagine any one show standing out from the other, but I'm gonna go through and watch an episode from each series and see how they compare to one another. The Muppets, originally created by Jim Henson in 1955, have seemingly been passed down from generation to generation, becoming embedded in pop culture through broadcast television, as well as through films like The Great Muppet Caper and The Muppets Take Manhattan, just to name a few. The idea of showing the Muppets as babies originated while art was being drawn for a tiny fold-out art book named The Muppet Show Bill. Henson suggested that the characters should be portrayed as small and baby-like to complement the size of the book. The idea didn't make it into the book, but it would later surface in the Muppets Take Manhattan movie within Miss Piggy's Fantasy, where the world would see the Muppets as babies for the first time. The film's success, and as well as the Muppet Baby segment being well received by fans, urged executives to push for Henson to develop the Muppet Babies into a Saturday morning cartoon, which would eventually air in September of 1984. Muppet Babies would run for 8 seasons, with reruns of the show playing on various networks up until the year 2000. Honestly, I've never been a huge fan of the Muppets. Miss Piggy always annoyed me as a kid, so I always shied away from watching the show, so honestly, I never watched the Muppet Babies when I was a kid. It was a little before my time anyway, so I'm going to be going into this with fresh eyes, so I'm kind of interested to see what it'll be like.
As he studied the map, Gonzo felt the floor.
Seems like they're really milking this, where so far there really hasn't been any animated segments, and we're a few minutes into it. I'm assuming the whole show isn't like this. It has to get into some animated scenes at some part. You know, it is very cute what they're doing with, you know, the storybook. It would be so much better if you actually see it instead of being told it. Like what they're describing would be a lot more fun to see in animated form.
Not bad
I mean,
for a
is
rainy
the whole
morning.
thing like this?
Agreed.
I
And
feel
you
like I
thought
gotta
you were
look this
going
up
to be
now.
bored.
Alright, so I just had to look it up. Apparently this is a terrible example to start with, because there was the Muppet Baby show and then the Muppet Baby video storybook where everything was very loosely animated. So I'm gonna have to try to find a better example than this. This should be a better example now. I like this song. Kinda has like a little bit of a doo-wop feel to it. Maybe that's something I should do, along with rating the, along with rating the actual, show, do a separate rating for the intros and the theme songs. I think that would be, fun to do as well. Yeah, not a bad theme song. I like it. So when I was reading about this, a lot of the stories are very imagination driven, which is kind of fun. It you know, opens itself up to I don't want to say easy writing, but a lot of different opportunities to write, you know, different plot lines and scenarios. Yeah, so I was reading about this where they used live action footage and would put animation over it, so it wasn't just strictly all animated backgrounds and everything like that. This allowed them to save on cost a little bit, and I think for what they're doing with the show and the premise of it, with the emphasizing the imagination, I think it works for what they're doing. So apparently the nanny, and I think any other adults in the show, they only show from the waist down, which is to kind of overemphasize the fact of like a child's perspective for this.
What if he spreads chunky peanut butter all over our faces and forgets the grape jelly? What?
Okay.
There's nothing to worry about.
So this does seem like it's obviously for a really young demographic. And I wonder how that's going to compare with the other shows we'll look at in the series. I feel like Tiny Toons, from what I remember, could be enjoyed by a little bit of an older audience, like a wider range. This seems like definitely, I don't know, maybe like up to 6 years old, maybe? I don't know. It feels young, though. As far as like personalities go, it seems like they're all pretty much still intact, what you expect from, the Muppet series before this. As far as the animation goes, it seems pretty on par for, the other animated shows from this time. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think the show is okay. If I was the right demographic, obviously as a 30-some-odd adult, it's not going to be as appealing to me. But I think it seems to be like an okay show. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably rate it a 6. Going forward, we'll be able to compare these shows more and talk about them a little more in depth. So the next show after the Muppet Babies, I believe, let me just double check, was the Flintstone Kids. So let's talk about that. The Flintstones, produced by Hanna-Barbera, first aired in 1960 and ran up until 1966, with various iterations of the show airing throughout the decades, such as the Pebbles and Bam Bam Show, the new Fred and Barney Show, and the topic of our discussion, the Flintstone Kids. Perhaps inspired by the success of the Muppet Babies, the Flintstones Kids would air 2 years after the debut of Muppet Babies, first broadcasting in September of 1986. As you'd imagine, the show follows the Flintstone characters now as kids, as a sort of prequel to the original series, though having several timeline inconsistencies that would contradict established lore. From what I could tell, the show would have moderate success, with reviews being slightly below average compared to its contemporaries. There's honestly not that much info about the show out on the web. I couldn't find any production notes about it, reviews were very limited. It just kind of seems like a show that was almost lost to time. So I'm interested to check it out and see what the Flintstone Kids is all about. Man, so this is a tiny tape, like there's barely any film on the spool. I'm excited to see this. I really love the animation. From when I saw the pictures of the show. Let me lower that a little bit. I mean, theme song wise, not the worst theme song, but it's coming in a little weak compared to the Muppet Babies.
Sure, I know Bruce Stone Spring. I taught him his best moves.
That's like one thing about the Flintstones, is that being able to make those prehistoric jokes, it makes the writing so much easier. And they're so easy. Like, they're not really that funny, but the fact that they're making those jokes makes me laugh every time.
You look cool. What's your name? Who, me? I'm Freddie Flintstone.
Like, I just love the colors, the way everything's drawn. It's just such like a, I don't know, such a warm, nostalgic feeling. So, much like Muppet Babies, it seems like the character personalities in this show pretty much identical to what you'd expect going to the original Flintstone series. Maybe with the exception of Betty. I mean, even like the plot, you know, mirrors the Flintstones pretty well. I gotta say, little baby Dino is pretty cute. That's one of the plot inconsistencies, is that Fred didn't have Dino until he was an adult, and the show kind of retconned that. Also, he didn't know Wilma or Betty until he was an adult as well. You gotta appreciate the prehistoric technology at the time, like the stone wheel, the wood bike frame. I always get a kick out of that kind of stuff.
Well, sure it's rocks. Didn't you ever hear of rock music? Get it? Say the change.
When you just expect that joke to come out.
We're gonna look for Barney.
I mean, that's the thing, is that, you know, you can pretty much imagine what the next line is going to be. You can complete the joke, but there's something still fun about hearing it being said out loud.
I was just about to bring these back. I picked them up by mistake.
Look, don't make things worse.
Yeah, the morality part of the episode, where, you know, they stress doing the right thing and the consequences of not doing what's morally right. Okay, so yeah, I like this a lot better than the Muppet Babies. I think this is obviously, like I was saying before, geared towards an older demographic. I mean, obviously not teenagers, but it's easier to enjoy the material. I love the animation. The Muppet Babies felt like very, I mean, appropriate for the time, you know, it was very mid-80s. This one, this animation style is closer to what I grew up with. The Flintstones, there's just something very endearing about them. I think the story was a lot more relatable. So I'm gonna say, yeah, I mean, right now, Muppet Babies, Flintstone Kids. And as far as the theme song, I do like the theme song better for the Muppet Babies. I think this theme song was a little weak. The intro itself I liked better, but as far as the visuals, but definitely the Muppet Babies had the better theme song. Scooby-Doo Where Are You was an animated series developed by Hanna-Barbera that debuted in 1969. The original series would run for 2 seasons over the span of 2 years before going through several revisions and airing again as the new Scooby-Doo movies, The Scooby-Doo Show, Scooby-Doo's All-Star Laugh Olympics, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, and many, many other names. In 1988, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo would premiere, featuring the original cast of characters now as children. Through the run of the series, it would establish pieces of Scooby-Doo lore which would far outlive the show itself. Things like the town being named Coolsville and Scooby's real name being Scoobert all first appeared in this series. After 4 seasons, the show would be cancelled when ABC commissioned Hanna-Barbera to develop a new show, The Pirates of Dark Water. Only having the budget for 1 show, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo would be scrapped. A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. I'm actually familiar with this show. I watched it when I was a kid, but I don't have a ton of memories of it. It's been a long time since I watched it. I remember not liking it as much as the original series, So we'll see how it fares going back and watching it, especially compared to Muppet Babies and the Flintstone Kids so far. Unfortunately, there was never a VHS release for this series. It only got released on DVD years later, which is kind of interesting. It makes you wonder how well this series was received. I mean, Muppet Babies got VHS releases at the time, Flintstone Kids got VHS releases. Every series that we're going to go through had a VHS release. This never had a home media release until years later when the DVD format came out. So it's interesting, you know, and like I read off there, it created a lot of Scooby-Doo lore that would be used throughout the series that would later be created. So I'm interested to see how well this series is. Let's see.
There's a mystery in town, so call the coolest pop around. Oh, Scooby, pop night Scooby-Doo. You can
I think as far as like songwriting wise, it's definitely better than the Flintstone Kids. I'm teetering between this song and the Muppet Babies song. I'm not sure which one I like better. So far, the dynamic between Scooby and Shaggy, it seems pretty identical to what you would expect in the original series. It's kind of odd seeing a monster during the day, right? Usually, all the mysteries that the gang would investigate are usually at night at some creepy location, and this is a monster during the day. Interesting. You could see the difference in animation as the years progressed, where Muppet Babies was 84, Flintstone Kids 86, now we're at 88. It's definitely the quality is improving a bit, and that's not just because it's a DVD. Yeah, so this was a reoccurring joke in the series that Fred would always blame this kid named Red Herring for every mystery throughout this series, with Daphne being more of a girly girl, we'll say, Fred being a little more dim-witted. We're definitely seeing more signs of personality differences compared to the original series. Flintstones seem pretty much intact. Muppet Babies didn't seem too far off. This series definitely has more personality differences. You know, it's a fun nod that they obviously don't have the Mystery Machine, they can't drive it as children, but the skateboard that they're on, it has the same motifs that the Mystery Machine would have later on, with the flowers, that kind of design. Yeah, the animation compared to the other two series seems a lot more expressive in this. I'm assuming that there was a higher budget put in for this.
I'm the world-famous medium.
Medium? You look more like an extra large to me.
No, no, no. A medium is someone who can see into the future.
You know who it is?
It's the boss from the Daily Babble, it's gotta be.
Isn't that right, Mr. Conrad?
There we go.
Oh, shucks.
It's not that hard to pinpoint it when there was only 2 people in the episode it could be, and one person it obviously wasn't. I definitely like it more than Muppet Babies. I'm kind of torn if I like it more than the Flintstone Kids, or if I like this pup named Scooby-Doo more than that. I feel like this show, it's odd because I think it has like a broader appeal and age range, where it feels like it would be able to net the Muppet Babies demographic and the Flintstone Kids demographic. With the Muppet Babies, it feels like they're stuck within their demographic of the younger audience. The Flintstone Kids picks up where that demographic is cut off, and it feels like this could straddle the line between the two. I felt like the story was more mature in the Flintstone Kids. A Pup Named Scooby-Doo was a little more nonsensical. You know, it's tough because I love the original Scooby-Doo series. I really wanted to watch this again and be like, oh yeah, I love this so much. Right now, I'm leaning more towards the Flintstone Kids. So if we had to rank them right now, Flintstone Kids, Pup Named Scooby-Doo, Muppet Babies. And as far as the intro, I think visually, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo has the best one, followed by Flintstone Kids and Muppet Babies. But the best theme song, this is tough. I think the best theme song, I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to stay with Muppet Babies, and then Pup Named Scooby-Doo and Flintstone Kids. It's interesting because it's tearing me apart because I really wanted to just love A Pup Named Scooby-Doo across the board. And maybe if I dove into a few other episodes, I would like it more. But as of just a few episodes I watched so far, definitely Flintstone Kids is still in the lead. Okay, new outfit, new day. Let's keep this going. Looney Tunes was developed by Warner Brothers Studios in response to Disney's series at the time, Silly Symphonies, and debuted in 1930. The time between 1944 and 1964 would be considered the golden era for the series, with some of the most beloved characters making their first appearance, such as Sylvester, Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner, and many more. The original series would end in 1969 after Warner Brothers shut down their animation studio. For the next 2 decades, Looney Tunes would be kept alive through theatrical shorts and television specials up until 1989, when Warner Brothers reinstated their animation studio and began developing a new animated series which led to Tiny Toon Adventures. Tom Ruegger, who had previously developed A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, would leave the show to come develop Tiny Toons along with collaborations from Steven Spielberg. The pilot would air in September of 1999 and run for 2 seasons, creating new characters within the Looney Tunes universe. It was eventually cancelled in 1992 so the team could develop a new series, which was the Animaniacs. Okay, so Tiny Toon Adventures. This is a series that I did watch as a kid. I don't have a ton of memories of it. In comparison, I definitely watched A Pup Named Scooby-Doo more than I watched Tiny Toon. And the thing about this is that it's different than the other shows that we looked at. Those shows, it's the same characters, but just young. With this approach, they decided to make entirely new characters for this. The reason I decided to include it is because it's definitely a product of the time. I mean, Tom Ruegger from A Pup Named Scooby-Doo came over to WB to specifically work on a project like A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. It still fits in that criteria of you have the backdrop of your classic established series and just put a younger character in front of that backdrop. Though it's different characters, I think it's the same sentiment. So let's take a look at Tiny Toon Adventures.
We're all a little loony, and in this cartoony, we're invading your TV.
I think this is obviously the best theme song we've seen so far. Visuals are great. The song itself is great. So definitely is ranking at the top right now. This is probably the best animation we've seen. I think probably Looney Tunes, Pup Named Scooby-Doo, Flintstone Kids, and then Muppet Babies in terms of the quality of animation. There's some really nice colors in this series as well so far. Like I was saying, the personalities, even though it's different characters, you could kinda imagine Buster as a younger Bugs Bunny and Babs as Lola, perhaps.
Committee transforms the gym into a wonderland of crepe paper and balloons.
Definitely good character design, reinterpreting these classic characters as
a young, rich, handsome,
younger well, younger versions of the same species, I guess. It's nice to see the classic Looney Tunes characters still appear in Tiny Toons as well. Yeah, so we were saying how a pup named Scooby-Doo,
Pin it on me.
it was the most expressive cartoon of the group that we've looked at so far. This is on par with that, probably even a step above a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Say, we don't have to hang around here, you know. My dad's car is right outside.
Right, and so is your dad. He drove us, remember?
Have fun, kids!
Oh, yeah.
Is spiking the punch?
You can't do this to me! I'm rich! I'm important! I'm a Republican!
The only thing you are is late for your date with Elmira.
Good music in the series. Well, let's say, theme song-wise, definitely the best theme song we've seen so far. And the music in the series, actually, through the entire show, I thought the music was really good. Which was the first show we've looked at where the music actually stood out to me. As far as the visuals are great. You know, the animation is probably the highest quality we've seen so far. Really expressive, which you kind of expect from Looney Tunes anyway. Story-wise, it's not the most compelling, certainly not that engaging of a story for me personally, but it's definitely more of a relatable and mature storyline in comparison to what we've seen before. You know, it feels like this could stretch to the you know, an older demographic so far, probably the oldest demographic, maybe, I don't know, what do you guys think, up to 12 years or so, maybe? This seems like it could be enjoyed by a really wide range of kids. Jokes are more mature. I thought there were some really funny lines in it, and overall, this is the best cartoon that we've looked at so far. Definitely the best quality. So if I had to rank them right now, we would say Tiny Toons, Flintstone Kids, Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and then Muppet Babies. Tom and Jerry was an animated comedy series created in 1940 by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera for MGM Studios, and would feature the rivalry between a cat named Tom and a mouse named Jerry. The original series would run up until 1958 when MGM closed their animation studio. Over the years, several spin-off shows would be created, such as The Tom and Jerry Show and The Tom and Jerry Comedy Show, all keeping the stories of Tom and Jerry alive. In 1990, Hanna-Barbera and Turner Entertainment would collaborate to produce Tom and Jerry Kids, which would feature the pair as toddlers. Aside from appearance, the show would be virtually the same, even using some of the same plot lines, though the violence for the series would be turned down for a younger audience. The show would run up to 1994 before it was cancelled, with reruns airing on Cartoon Network and later Boomerang. Guys, we are in the home stretch. Tom and Jerry Kids. There's really not a ton of info about this show that I could find. It's something that I don't really ever remember seeing as a kid. I think I might have seen it briefly, a couple episodes, and just thought it was, you know, plot line or story for the original Tom and Jerry show, and never really thought anything of it.
It's the Tom and Jerry Kids. Gotta be there where all the action is. Tom and Jerry Kids. The Tom and Jerry Kids show.
Yeah, I don't love the theme song. I think where the Flintstones barely had a theme song, the Flintstone Kids, it's better off if you don't have this long drawn out theme song if the songwriting is really weak. It translates well, making Tom and Jerry toddlers in appearance. So the animation is definitely better than what I was expecting to come from this show. I don't think it's topping Tiny Toons. Probably a pup named Scooby-Doo is still a bit better. But this is pretty good. I mean, this was 1990, so it's on par with the other shows of this time.
Hey, what's that crazy cat doing?
I think he's trying to tell us something.
He wants us to follow him.
Story-wise, it's not anything that we haven't seen from Tom and Jerry so far. Yeah, so as we were talking about with the other shows, I mean, we saw some personality differences in a pup named Scooby-Doo, different characters in Tiny Toons. Most of the personalities were the same with the Flintstone Kids, Muppet Babies. I mean, this feels exactly the same, and all they did was just make them younger. Same show, just draw them differently. I will say, though, they look adorable. Alright, that was one of the shortest segments we've had to look at. I mean, a Flintstone Kids was pretty short, this was even shorter. I mean, what's there really to say? It's the same exact show. Really nothing is different at all. They look adorable, the animation is good, but there's not really anything new to talk about here. The theme song I thought was awful, it wasn't good. Visually, I think it's fun, but, you know, really probably the weakest one in the group that we've looked at so far, and I kind of anticipated that would be the case. Overall, my favorite one in the series that we looked at is Tiny Toon Adventures. The story from the episode we watched, it's just universal, right? I mean, anyone could watch it and get it. The jokes were better, the animation is the best quality that we've seen. Even the music was great in the show, so out of all 5, Tiny Toons takes it. Second place, I'm gonna put Flintstone Kids. I really enjoyed that, and I really didn't expect to like it as much as I did. The color palette was great. The story is, again, easy to digest and relatable no matter what age you're at. It's fun characters, they look great, drawn younger, and, you know, I had fun watching a Flintstone Kids. Third place is going to be a pup named Scooby-Doo. I have a lot of love for it, and it hurts me putting it down that low and not at number 1. It was just real silly. I love the characters of Scooby, Shaggy, I love Fred, I love the dynamics between the group, but it wasn't the best material that we've looked at. Number 4 is going to be Muppet Babies. I mean, what's there to say about the Muppet Babies? The theme song I thought was really fun. It's probably, what would we say, the second best theme song we've heard in the series. There's some really fun things that they can do. The only thing you're getting out of it is they look cute. Feels too narrow of a demographic when you're looking at the age range that kids would be watching it. The other shows seem watching them. I hope I didn't offend anyone too much on how I ranked the shows or the reviews I gave on each show. You know, I appreciate you guys checking it out. If you stayed and watched the video, felt like it would be a cash grab when I heard about it. When I saw it, I thought, you know, wow, this is a really adorable looking characters, but it's the same exact story of what we've seen before. You know, them being younger doesn't impact the story at all. It's the same, you know, thing beat for beat